What is up, home workout and bodyweight exercise fans? In today's video from Eat Muscle, I'll be talking about getting rid of negative habits, of bad behaviors, of things like our friend Cam asked me about, and this is why I'm making this video. Cam asked me, how can I get rid of my addiction to weed? So he's been trying to quit weed for a year now. It causes him a lot of trouble because he lacks motivation. Of course, that's what happens with weed. You just get so relaxed that there's no drive, there's no motivation for doing things. So he started with my superhero home workout, and that's one of his obstacles. So I'm gonna give you 3 tips on how to deal with negative habits and these kinds of problems. So tip number 1 is self-compassion. What do I mean by self-compassion? I mean that you have to understand that you're not the only guy that's going through this, Most of the times, like 99.9% of the times, we all are going through things that a ton of other people are going through. And smoking weed, that's a problem a lot of other people have, for sure. So, understanding that a lot of people are dealing with this problem, understanding that you're not the weird guy, you're not the outcast, you're not, there's nothing wrong with you, that's the first step, So, because understanding this and showing compassion to yourself, not getting into this loop of self-criticizing and, looking at yourself as like a bad person is the first step into taking action. Because if you're just criticizing yourself and you just stay in that negative loop of self-criticism and projecting negative stuff towards yourself, you are just you're not gonna have self-confidence to take action. Because changing bad habits needs self-confidence. You have to be in that emotional state. So starting with self-compassion and building self-confidence, understanding that yes, this is how it is, but a lot of people have gone through this and have gotten over this. A lot of people have gone through a lot more difficult stuff and they got over them, not because they're more special, just because they got organized and they looked for ways to fixing their problems. I mean, I've gotten over a ton of things I never thought I would get over, not because I'm special, because I just got motivated and I just got organized and I just researched these things and I just took action. So that's tip number 1, self-compassion. Not too much self-compassion that you don't take any action at all, but just telling yourself that it's okay where I've been, what I've done, and I can just move on now. That's the first step you need. That's the emotional ground layer that you need to start from. Tip number 2 are triggers and replacement habits, positive habits that you're going to use to replace this negative habit. So, because if you can't just get rid of a habit if you don't have anything to replace it with, to at least take your mind off it in the beginning. So first of all, find the trigger. What's causing you to smoke weed on a daily basis? Triggers can be a lot of things. They can be people. So you have to learn to deal with this person that's causing you this, or to get rid of this person. Negative people, when you can't do anything when you've tried to help negative people in your life and you can't help them at all, there's a point that you just have to get rid of them. It sounds bad, but sometimes there's no reason for 2 people to suffer, for you and the other person to suffer. If you can't help him, you just have to cut loose. So another trigger can be emotional states. So maybe you're smoking weed because you're bored. If that's the case, boredom causes a lot of negative habits like eating, binge eating and stuff like that. So if it's boredom, you have to find a positive replacement habit. And whatever the case might be, you have to recognize what is causing the problem. So recognizing the trigger is definitely gonna help you take action and get organized, in order to because understanding yourself, understanding what's causing you your problems, helps you even more to develop self-compassion that we talked about. So you understand that I'm like this, I'm very angry, this person gets me really angry, and that's why I smoke weed, for example. once you understand that, sometimes even if it's obvious, once you just analyze it in your head a little bit more, it helps a lot to, moving on. So recognizing the trigger and then finding a replacement habit. So replacement habits are positive things that you have to find to replace this habit. So for example, one of my issues is sometimes, stress and, feeling some depression approaching. So the way I deal with that is depending on what's the trigger. So, I know there are certain triggers that causes me this issues like being overworked, for example, or being with stressful people a lot. So what I do in these cases is I have a couple of habits that I replace, that I use to, get out of this state. So I walk, I exercise, I meditate. These are 3 things I do depending on the time of the day. In the more early hours of the morning, I meditate. Later on, I'll walk. Later on, I'll exercise. So, having replacement habits is the second thing you have to definitely find. And what are these habits going to be? It depends. It depends on the person, on the issue you're trying to deal with. So these are things you have to experiment with. Just try them, see if they work. If they don't, after a little while, try finding other stuff. So you're going to have to experiment, of course, So this is the second tip, summarizing the second tip, finding the triggers and finding replacement habits. Also in general, being very organized. So like I said, depending on the time of the day or whatever, on what you're doing, you have to have different replacement habits sometimes. So moving on to tip number 3 is just do it. Like Nike says, don't overanalyze things if they're not that complicated. We tend a lot of times to overanalyze things to look like for the best solutions, and just keep on reading books. Reading books, it's awesome. I read a lot, but some people tend to just read things and never take action. So make sure there's balance with that, and just read some stuff and experiment. Don't just stay in theory. So that's the third tip. Just do it. Do some research, try to understand things, and just experiment. Don't stay in theory. Give a try to a lot of different things and see what works. If nothing works, keep on researching, keep on reading, keep on asking people. Find people who've gone through the same things and see how they got over them, and just keep on working at it. I promise you, at some point you're gonna find a way to deal with this habit. So that was all. I hope this video helps. Let me know what are your negative habits and how did you got over them in the comment section below. And until next time, keep on training.